let's talk about success for a second here. And I don't mean just any success, I mean wild success. And this can be in any area of your life. I have created a 3-pillar framework that is the only thing you need to be wildly successful in any area of your life. And so I know I'm not Elon Musk, I'm not Jeffrey Bezos, but if you look at my track record, I'm pretty qualified to speak on this subject because I've managed to scale the business that I'm in now past 50K per month, which believe me, was not easy to do. And prior to this, I was the top producing mortgage loan officer at the firm that I worked in for several years in a row. I've created a dating life that is probably, if I'm being honest, a little bit over the top. And, I've formed social circles, not just in my city, but all over the country. And I just want to break down each pillar so that you can keep this in mind and find yourself in this process. Pillar number 1 is take imperfect action and start before you're ready. Most people fail to start. This is due to fear. The fear is of failure, rejection, embarrassment, discomfort. So, before I turned 30 years old, and I'll start by saying this, I'm one of the most insecure people out there. Even to this day, I still am. I'm just as insecure as anybody else. And prior to being 30 years old, which I turned a couple of years ago, I was waiting for this certainty, waiting for this comfortability. I was waiting for this confidence to finally show up in my life where I felt ready and, certain about taking big steps and big leaps towards what I really wanted. And the reality is that when I turned 30 years old, that was when it clicked in my brain that was never going to show up. That feeling of certainty was never coming. And I realized that if I'm turning 30, and if it's not here now, then it's never gonna happen. So it wasn't until I was about 30 years old that I finally just gave myself permission to take the step, right? To take that first step. Nobody ever told me that I'm cool enough to make YouTube videos. I just fucking make them now, right? So that's why the first pillar is take imperfect action and then start before you're ready. Most people fail to start, right? And that's what gets you to pillar number 2. So pillar number 2 is to let the process mentor you and build it as you go. All right, so there's kind of this concept that's the analogy is building the airplane while it's flying. All right, because it's not until you've actually gotten started that you can begin to make these micro pivots. When I first started my business, I was selling courses. And I was selling courses about things like personal branding and looks maxing and dating. And after producing that and after having people purchase it and after talking to the people that bought it, I started to realize what was working, what wasn't working, what was helping, what wasn't helping. And it was a ton of micro pivots that I made in order to get to where I'm at now with hosting parties and running Instagram ads. It's not like one day I just woke up and decided to change my business model or my strategy. It's that because I started before I was ready and took imperfect action, the process then mentored me. And so you essentially discover the way along the way. And that's key. Anything that anybody has built, where it ended isn't where it started. So that's pillar number 2, which is let the process mentor you and build it as you go, okay? Pillar number 3 is stick to one thing for an unordinary amount of time. Keyword there is unordinary, because you actually don't need to be exceptional. You don't even really need to be great in order to be successful. You just have to be above the average, which, to be honest, isn't really that difficult. Most people are in cognitive slumbers, going through the daily motions like NPCs. And so when you stick to one thing for just an unordinary amount of time, you begin to get those breakthrough results. And that can vary depending on what you're trying to do. You know, building a business, it might be a couple of years. Becoming a professional basketball player, that might take 10 years. But it just depends, like, what is the ordinary person? How much time are they spending in order to accomplish that thing? If you stick to that one thing for the unordinary amount of time, you're gonna see success. So let's just break that down. Take imperfect action, start before you're ready. Let the process mentor you, build it as you go. Stick to one thing for an unordinary amount of time. And if you look back and if you think about it, the only reason you ever failed was because of one of those three things. Think about that. You either failed to start, or you failed to improve and learn, or you failed to continue. It always boils down to one of those three things. That's why this is the only 3-pillar formula to success that you need to understand. Get this in your mind, and when you really internalize it, you'll begin to see the place that you're in along the way. Maybe right now you need to just get started. You haven't been doing it. You have fear of judgment. Or maybe you've been doing it for a while, but it's not going well, and it's because you're not making those micro pivots, you're not improving. Or maybe the thing that you wanted, you just gave up on it and walked away. It's one of those things, man. So those 3 pillars, baby. Keep those in mind and you can do anything you want in life. Peace.